7th-O-Ween started out as an idea in 2015 as something special I could do for the Halloween season, playing a different Halloween-themed / horror game for every day of October. The only downside was nobody watched them. This wasn't the kind of content people were used to from me. This failure, combined with me starting the 7th cast as a weekly thing around the same time, is most likely what directly led to the death of my channel, as far as new subscribers and new views goes, because YouTube's algorithm looked at this and said, hey, this guy made 31 straight videos and nobody liked them. He must be terrible. But now we're 6 years on, the channel is dead, I don't really care anymore, and I've had a number of people on Twitter say, why don't you ever talk about movies? So, as just something different to do this year, I thought I would talk about some of my favorite horror movies. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to throw up 31 videos this month. Au contraire. I don't have the time for that, but I promise I'll get as many up as I possibly can, because talking about horror movies is something that I really, really enjoy. So, with that in mind, let's get started. I hope you know what you're in for. Up until the early 1970s, horror had always been more of a lowbrow, low-budget affair as far as Hollywood was concerned. But then came The Exorcist. The Exorcist changed everything and became a phenomenon. And so, of course, Hollywood really, really wanted to cash in on that, so it was only a couple of years later that we had The Omen. The success of these two films birthed what I like to call the Christian demonic horror film genre. And of course, because of how much money these two films made, everyone and their mother wanted to get in on the action. So throughout the late 70s, all the way through the 80s, and even now with films like the Conjuring series, this subgenre of horror has thrived. But I'm not wanting to talk about the classics here. Everyone knows about The Omen. Everyone knows about The Exorcist. Everyone knows about The Conjuring and Insidious, and on and on and on and on. I'm wanting to talk about the knockoffs. Now, true, most of these knockoffs were garbage, but there are a few hidden gems here and there. And I'm going to start with a movie called Fear No Evil. Fear No Evil was released in 1981, distributed by Embassy Pictures. It was directed by Frank LaLoggia, written by Frank LaLoggia, produced by Frank LaLoggia. The music was co-written by Frank LaLoggia and David Spear. It was produced by LaLoggia Productions, and it had absolutely no name stars whatsoever. To put it bluntly, Fear No Evil is a ripoff of The Omen. The film opens with a Catholic priest chasing some demonic-looking booger through the ruins of an old castle. He eventually traps the monster, somehow, in front of an old tree. The priest slings his cross-adorned staff at the monster, impaling it, and as it dies, it proclaims that it is Lucifer and shall one day return. The story then transitions to the birth of one Andrew Williams. Over the years, his parents start to notice some, particularly Damien-like behavior. But they don't really do anything about it, as they're far too busy getting drunk and yelling at each other. Ah, marital bliss. The story moves on to Andrew's senior year in high school. The teachers adore him. He's a genius-level straight-A student, but he's that quiet, withdrawn type, and so of course he gets the prerequisite mocking and beatings from the resident alpha males. One day, he finds himself oddly compelled to visit the old castle ruins on the other side of the river. It's here that we meet Margaret, a kind old lady who lives on the outskirts of town. We find out that she was a lifelong friend of the priest from the beginning of the film, Father Damon. We then find out that Father Damon was found to be insane and was committed due to the perceived murder of an innocent man, you know, the devil. But Margaret She knows that man was actually Lucifer, and that he shall be returning, if he hasn't already. You see, unbeknownst to everyone else but knownst to us, Margaret and Damon are incarnated angels who for centuries have been preventing Lucifer from taking over the world. Every few decades, Lucifer reincarnates, and so three angels, Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel, armed with their angel staffs endowed with super-duper god magic, have stood watch, reincarnating from human body to human body, always managing to stop Lucifer, but thus far have only managed to kill his human form, not his vile, evil spirit. But there's a problem. Father Damon passed away recently in the funny farm and has not reincarnated, and Margaret, try as she might, has been unsuccessful in finding the reincarnation of the third angel, Gabriel. Meanwhile, Andrew goes full-on Antichrist mode during gym class and kills one of his fellow students during a not-so-friendly game of dodgeball. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. The poor kid's girlfriend, Julie, is understandably put out by this turn of events. We soon discover that she is Gabrielle, found finally by the old lady Margaret, who is Michael. So of course, in turn, Father Damon was Raphael, and don't even bother asking me who Donatello or Splinter was, cause I have no freaking clue. Anyway, back home, Andrew cripples his mother and nearly murders his father, and decides it's finally time for a real change of pace. So he leaves to draw all his demonic power back at the old castle. Now he's in full-on Lucifer meets Dracula mode. And hey, wouldn't you know it, it also just happens to be close to Easter, and over at the beach, a local acting troupe is putting on the Passion Play. Suddenly, in a little pinch from Night of the Living Dead, corpses start reanimating everywhere, and munching down on the folks who came to watch a reenactment of Christ being crucified. Everything goes nuts, everything goes haywire, people are being killed left and right, fake Jesus gets struck by lightning and electrocuted, and a grand old time is had by all. Margaret and Julie take up their super staff and head off to the castle for the final battle. Will Michael and Gabriel succeed? Will the devil take over the world? Can our heroes hold out, folks? Will they hold out? Now don't get it twisted, folks. I'm not saying Fear No Evil is a masterpiece, but at the same time, despite me having a sort of mocking nature during this video, I can't help it. It's just kind of what I do. I actually really enjoy this film. True, it definitely wears its influences on its sleeves, and the acting can be hit or miss. There's some laughable ADR here and there, and some of the effects are questionable even by early 80s standards, but yet there's still something there. This movie really appeals to me. It always has. I wasn't old enough to see it in the theater when it came out. I saw it years and years later on the USA Network, back when they used to have that block of horror films that they'd show. That's where I first saw it. I fell in love with it, and I've always had a copy of it ever since. The old castle ruins are creepy as hell. The actor who plays Andrew is convincingly menacing. The music is fantastic, which astounds me because the music was co-written by the writer, director, and producer, and yet it has a theme, an overlying theme that in my mind is just as memorable as the theme to The Exorcist or The Omen. It's just a really fantastic score. I love this movie just for the music alone, much less that it's pure on 80s horror cheese. Some of the animated 80s effects, while certainly dated, have a sort of otherworldly look to them that was really prevalent back then, almost in a kind of Tron sort of way. It's hard to describe, you'll just have to watch it for yourself. There's a link to the trailer down in the description. Fear No Evil is available on Amazon Prime for $7.99 for purchase or $2.99 for rent. I've not been able to find it on any of the other streaming services. Go check it out and let me know what you think down in the comments. Until next time, folks, this is 7th.